Taylor's hands trembled as she grabbed for Ridge's hand, not to console him, but to remove the ring from his finger. "You can't get away with this," she said softly, her voice shaking. "Not this time. Caroline did not deserve this." Ridge's gaze shifted away, but the weight of truth hung heavy between them, impossible to ignore. Taylor's thoughts was filled with memories of Caroline's laughter, soft compassion, and how she lighted up every room. How could Ridge have damaged it? How could he have ended her life so abruptly, ruthlessly, and without remorse? Taylor's determination hardened as tears ran down her cheeks. She would see justice served. Ridge would face consequences for his actions. Taylor grabbed the ring and yanked it off his finger in one rapid stroke. It clattered to the floor, leaving a faint metallic echo in the room that seemed louder than any cry. Ridge's face paled, but Taylor remained fearless. Only determination. Caroline's memory demanded action, and Taylor refused to let him go. She would contact the authorities. She would lock him up. In that quiet filled with pain, loss, and rage, Taylor knew that nothing would ever be the same again. The world felt empty and colder today, and Taylor was determined to commemorate Caroline by ensuring Ridge would never hurt anyone else. The room seemed to close in on Taylor as she stood there, staring at the ring on the floor. Its brightness teased her, a painful reminder of Ridge's vows to Caroline, which had now been shattered in the worst way. She could still recall Caroline's face, radiant and full of life, the day she first showed Taylor the ring. "He said it's forever," Caroline exclaimed, her voice full of delight. "Forever." The word now tasted like ash in Taylor's mouth. She bent down and grabbed the ring, squeezing it tightly in her fist. The cold metal dug into her palm, grounding her in the present. She couldn't let herself come apart right now. Caroline deserved more than tears. She deserved justice. Taylor's gaze shifted to Ridge, who stood motionless with his shoulders sunk as if the weight of his actions had finally crushed him. But she felt no sympathy. Not for him. Not after all he'd done. The silence between them was stifling, interrupted only by the gentle hum of the metropolis beyond the apartment window. Taylor's mind raced as he pieced together the events of the previous several weeks. The late-night disputes she'd overheard between Ridge and Caroline, Caroline's fading grin, and the injuries Taylor had spotted but not questioned. She despised herself for not noticing it sooner, for not intervening when she had the opportunity. Caroline, however, would not return due to regret. "Action may. You thought no one would find out," Taylor replied, her voice firmer now, but trembling with barely held wrath. "You believed you could simply eliminate her. As if she were nothing." Ridge's jaw tensed, but he did not react. His silence just made her angrier. "Say something," she demanded, coming forward. "Tell me why. Tell me how you could do this to her." Ridge's eyes finally met hers and she saw something flicker in them. Guilt, dread, and possibly regret. But it vanished as fast as it appeared, replaced by a hard, protective stare. "You don't understand," he explained, his voice low and strained. "It wasn't supposed to happen like this." "Like this?" Taylor raised his voice, angry and incredulous. "You've killed her, Ridge. You ended her life. There's no like this to it." She took another step toward him, her hands trembling with the want to lash out. But she stopped herself. Violence would not reverse what had been done. It would not bring Caroline back. She had to be wiser than that. Caroline's lifeless body flashed across her head, an image that had been etched into her memory since she discovered her. That night, the apartment was unusually silent, with an unnatural calm in the air. Taylor had came over to check on her friend after several days of unanswered calls and texts. She knew there was something wrong, but nothing could have prepared her for what she discovered. Caroline was collapsed on the floor, her once vivid eyes looking blankly at the ceiling. The sight had devastated Taylor, destroying something inside her that she wasn't sure could ever be restored. She dialed 911 right away, her hands trembling so much that she couldn't grasp the phone. They'd arrived, asked questions, and taken notes, but Ridge had already crafted a story. He said it was an accident, a catastrophic fall. People believed him because of his charm, connections, and carefully built image. But not Taylor. She knew the truth even though no one else did. She'd noticed the indications, the flaws in his facade, and the darkness he concealed behind his polished exterior. Now, standing in front of him, Taylor felt the weight of that fact more than ever before. She tucked the ring into her pocket as a small piece of evidence, a physical link to Caroline. She was unsure if it would help, but it was something. A beginning place. She would build her case piece by piece until Ridge had no place to hide. "I'm going to the police," she announced, her voice steely. "This time they will listen. I'll make them listen." She turned to face the door, her heart thumping in her chest. Every step felt like a battle, but she kept going. She had to. For Caroline. Ridge's words halted her just as she reached for the doorknob. "Taylor, wait." His tone softened, almost imploring. She froze and did not turn around. "You don't know the whole story," he said. "There's more to it than you think." She turned around, her eyes burning. "Then tell me," she asked, her voice slashing through the air like a sword. "Tell me what could possibly justify what you did." Even as she spoke, she knew there was nothing he could say to change her mind. No explanation could remove the sight of Caroline's lifeless body, and no justification could compensate for the grief he had inflicted. Ridge opened his mouth briefly before closing it again, as if the words he wanted to say were lodged in his throat. For the first time, he appeared little and shrunken, as if he understood he was running out of time. "It was an accident," he finally admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't mean to." "Stop," Taylor said abruptly, shutting him off. "Don't lie to me. Not now." She took a stride back toward him, her fists clenched. "You cannot hide behind accidents longer. I understand what you did, and I'm going to make sure everyone else is aware." She returned to the door, her resolve stronger than ever. As she moved into the hallway, the weight of what lied ahead fell on her. The police may not believe her at first. Ridge wielded considerable power, and his reputation had served as a shield for him for far too long. But Taylor was not alone. She had Caroline's memories, love, and light to guide her forward. And she would fight with all her might to ensure Ridge faced the repercussions of his deeds. The city outside was alive with activity, oblivious to the catastrophe that had occurred in that small flat. Taylor strolled down the street, the ring heavy in her pocket and her mind swimming with ideas. She would gather evidence, speak with anyone who might have seen or heard something, and investigate Ridge's past to discover flaws in his story. She would be unrelenting. For Caroline. Days stretched into weeks, and Taylor immersed herself in her quest. She spent hours poring over previous text messages, voicemails, and anything else that could provide a hint. She contacted Caroline's friends, co-workers, and anybody else who may have observed something unusual about Ridge. Most were unwilling to speak out against a man like him, but a handful told stories that sent chills down Taylor's spine. A rage flared behind closed doors. Caroline attempted to downplay her domineering streak. Small parts of a puzzle that, when assembled, revealed a man capable of far worse than anyone could have imagined. Taylor also went to locations Caroline had enjoyed. The coffee shop where she spent her mornings, the park where she walked her dog, and the bookshop where she could lose herself for hours. Each location felt like a piece of Caroline, a reminder of why Taylor refused to quit up. She carried a notebook with her everywhere, noting down every detail and lead, no matter how minor. She was not a detective, and she didn't need to be. She had something stronger: love for her friend and a burning desire for justice. One evening, while Taylor sat in her apartment, surrounded by notes and documents, her phone rang with a message from an unknown number. Her heart skipped a beat when she opened it. "Meet me at the pier at 9 p.m. I know something about Caroline." The message was unsigned, but Taylor's instincts told her it was worth investigating. She grabbed her coat and walked out, the ring still in her pocket, a reminder of her vow to Caroline. When she arrived, the dock was silent, the air heavy with the aroma of ocean and the distant hum of the city. She examined the area, her nerves tingling. Taylor felt her breath catch in her throat as a man emerged from the darkness. It was a woman, who she dimly knew from Caroline's social circle. Lisa, a former co-worker, appeared hesitant and guarded. "You're Taylor, right?" Lisa inquired, her voice quiet. Taylor nodded with her heart hammering. "I heard you've been asking questions about Ridge," Lisa said, looking over her shoulder as if she expected someone to be watching. I didn't want to become involved, but I can't stay quiet any longer. Caroline told me things. Things about him." Taylor's pulse quickened. What things? She inquired, stepping forward. Lisa hesitated, then spoke quickly, as if worried she'd lose her nerve. He was not who he seemed. Caroline was afraid of him, Taylor. She informed me a few weeks before it happened. She claimed he had been acting odd and possessive. She wanted to escape, but she was scared of what he may do. Taylor's gut churned. Had she told you anything specific? Is there anything I can use? Lisa nodded and removed a little flash drive from her pocket. She handed me this. She claimed it was insurance in case something happened to her. I didn't look at it because I was too terrified. But I believe you should have it. Taylor grabbed the flash disk, her palms trembling. Thank you, she replied, her voice full of emotion. You don't know what this means. Lisa shakes her head. Just be careful, okay? Ridge is not a person you want to cross. Taylor nodded and slipped the flash drive into her pocket, alongside the ring. Taylor felt a burst of hope as Lisa disappeared back into the shadows. Whatever was on that flash drive could be the key to taking Ridge down. She ran home, her thoughts racing with possibilities. Taylor returned to her apartment and plugged the flash drive into her laptop. Her hands shook as she opened the folders. There were dozens of audio recordings, each identified with the date. She selected the most recent one, and Caroline's voice filled the room. Taylor's heart ached when she heard the sound, which was both familiar and sad. Caroline sounded anxious, her words stuttering as she recalled Ridge's behavior, his tantrums, threats, and the way he had separated her from her friends. I don't know what to do, Caroline remarked, her voice quivering. I'm scared he's going to hurt me. As she listened, Taylor's eyes welled up with tears, each word piercing her heart. But the agony brought a newfound feeling of purpose. This was the proof she needed that Ridge was not the guy he claimed to be. She duplicated the files, backed them up, and forwarded them to a trusted friend for safekeeping. Then she called the detective who had handled Caroline's case, her voice steady despite the turmoil within her. Hi, Detective Harris. This is Taylor. I have something you should hear. The next few days were spent visiting with police, exchanging tapes, and answering inquiries. Detective Harris was doubtful at first, but when he heard Caroline's voice, his expression altered. This changes things, he explained, his tone serious. We'll need to bring Ridge in for questioning. Taylor sensed a glimmer of hope, but she knew the fight wasn't finished. Ridge had considerable power, and he was not one to give up easily. Still, she kept the ring in her pocket as a reminder of her vow. She would finish this no matter how long it took. Weeks later, Taylor stood outside the courthouse, the air crisp with the promise of fall. Ridge was arrested and charged with Caroline's murder based on the evidence found on the flash drive and Taylor's dogged pursuit. The trial was yet ahead, and Taylor knew it would be difficult. But she was prepared. She had Caroline's memories as a guide and the truth on her side. Taylor felt at ease leaving the courthouse for the first time since Caroline's death. The world felt emptier without her companion, but Taylor had kept her promise. Ridge would never harm anyone again. Taylor understood in that instant that Caroline's brightness, while gone, would never be forgotten.